thank you so much for coming and watching the Wild Wes Show. Listen, today I got you guys a special guest, Vladimir Koloff, Carl Brownlee. How you doing today, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Glad to have you on the show today.
Well, nice to be here.
Oh, what a deal.
Oh, yeah.
Well, then, people will want to see this interview for quite a while. I just going to know, how have you been?
I've been great, actually. Well, a few health issues. Well, I'm 53, and, the road and the ring took its toll on me. And
hey, you're still looking good over here.
Well, I feel good.
I
feel good. So
I hear you. So now, since, as you said, with the road and everything, are you still in the business today?
No,
or
no.
You're still retired?
I'm completely retired.
I hear you.
Once I retired, I only made a few appearances after I officially retired. A couple of them were in the ring reluctantly. Several appearances, card shows, signing, things of that nature. Charitable events I still do.
Oh, okay, that's awesome.
I lend my name, the professional name, I lend that to any kind of charitable event that I still, deem worthy, so to speak.
All right, that's awesome. So, since you've been retired, what have you been doing lately?
Well, those who know me personally know that all of my life I've raised livestock.
Okay.
Exhibition livestock. From a small kid growing up in Indiana, exhibition cattle, exhibition poultry, exhibition sheep and swine. But now it's just the cattle and the poultry, and I still enjoy that. I started amateur wrestling when I was in 3rd grade.
Okay.
I started raising livestock in 2nd grade, so I've actually been into the livestock deal longer than I was a wrestler.
Oh, what a deal.
Exactly. So, but it's my passion, it's my love. It keeps me from going postal on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's good.
And those who know me know that I can just like that.
Bam, like that.
Yeah.
But that's pretty neat, just, so, all livestock and everything, just a good enjoyment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't know about the phrase, it's somewhat of a cliche, the gentleman farmer, I don't know about that, but I enjoy what I do.
Okay, that's awesome. That's good that, you still have success and doing all that. That's awesome.
And here where I live in Wilkesboro, or the Wilkesboros, North Wilkesboro and Wilkesboro, and if you don't live here, you don't know the difference. But if you live here, obviously we have 2 separate cities.
Yeah.
But everybody here in the Wilkesboros or Wilkes County, they know me as the wrestler, whether it was the amateur career that I had, elementary, middle school, high school, international, world team, so on and so forth, Greco-Roman and freestyle. Okay. And then I turned pro later on.
All right. Well, if you will, we talk a little bit about your amateur wrestling, how you got started up in that?
Excuse me. I was in 3rd grade, and my older brother was he was in middle school, and he would come home after middle school practice, and he'd just whip the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And I was in 3rd grade, and I weighed 100 pounds in 3rd grade, and he'd just come home and just beat me to death. And so I had to learn how to defend myself wrestling wise. And so I started wrestling in the club and at the school, and I just progressed and progressed. And I was 4-time conference champion, 4-time all-conference, 4-time sectional champion, 3-time regional champion, 3-time all-state, state runner-up, silver medalist in the nationals in Greco-Roman, twice in the national runner-up twice, junior Olympic silver medalist, was on the national elite wrestling team that went to Hungary the first year in '81, Romania in '82. In Romania, we dueled against the. I take that back. It was in Hungary in '81. We dueled against the Iranians, the Hungarians, and the North Koreans, and I beat all 3.
I hear you.
I was 17 years old at the time. I was in the National Sports Festival in Syracuse, New York, and Indianapolis, Indiana. So I was fairly talented as an amateur wrestler.
Yeah.
Collegiate didn't work out for me for several different reasons. So that was my amateur career.
Okay. So from the amateur and going into professional wrestling, you'd say a lot of the amateur helped you benefit going to the professional side?
Oh yeah, most definitely. It helped me with my ability, being 6'2".
Yeah.
280 pounds, it helped me be able to move. I could move.
Okay.
I could move. But equally on that hand, the other hand, I wanted to go out there and just grab them. I mean, and you know, the guys that trained me said, listen, you can't do that. I mean, you have to be gentle. This is a work. This is not a shoot. You have to take care of your guy that you're working so that he can work tomorrow night.
Yes.
And you can work tomorrow night. So I had to learn how to be. I had a buddy, Sal Carente. He always called. Sal was a referee, a good friend of mine years ago. He always said, you're a damn crowbar, because I was stiff.
Oh, yeah.
They said I was stiff, but you know, fortunately, they never felt how stiff I could be if I had to be. So the amateur aspect of it was a detriment at times, but also a benefit other times.
Probably felt like more comfortable being in the ring.
Oh yeah, I mean, even one of the state finals one year, I was booed by the fans at the Parkland High School at the state finals.
Huh?
But because I was cocky.
Yeah.
You know, I worked the crowd when I was in high school.
Hey, that's the way to do it.
That's right, brother.
Get over. That's how you do it.
That's right. Get over.
So, you know, how did you get into the business, and like who trains you and stuff?
I after I got out of college, I was working for a company, and I really didn't. It was a large corporation, and I really didn't like working the 9-to-5 gig. However, I was working overseas. I was working 5 continents.
Yeah.
Okay, Asia, South America, North America, Europe. What's the other one? Europe, Asia. I'm gonna look like a fool trying to count here.
You're looking good.
5 continents. Yeah. Australia, sorry. Yeah. And so I was traveling all the time, and I really didn't like being back in the States working a 9-to-5 gig. And one of the trips coming home from Tokyo, I was on a flight from Tokyo to LAX and then LAX to Charlotte. I sat next to Ivan.
Okay.
On a plane. Now, I was still Carl Brantley at the time. I mean, I was just a former amateur wrestler. I had no aspirations or ideas of turning pro at the time. So I sat right next to Ivan from Tokyo, Narita to LAX and then on to Charlotte. And so we talked and blah, blah, blah. And I told him at the time that I knew Andre personally from my livestock deal. And I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. Okay. How I got to know Andre and become a dear friend of Andre's. Okay. And so Ivan always said, hey, if you ever decide to turn pro, call me up. And I'll train you and we'll get you into business. Now, I was still a big guy. I mean, I've been 6'2", at least 190 pounds since I was in 8th grade. Yeah. 8th grade. Okay, so I've always been a big guy. Yeah. So Ivan said, we'll train you and what have you and get you into business, so on and so forth. And I said, well, I know Andre. And he said, well, that's great. Andre's Andre. So when I left working the 9-to-5 corporate gig, I called Andre and I spoke to Frenchie Bernard, who was Andre's confidant, best friend, ranch manager, so on and so forth, former NWA, Florida wrestling territory referee. I called Frenchie and I said, hey, can I speak to Andre? And he said, he's in Japan. He won't be back for quite a while. And I said, how long? He said, about 6 weeks. So with his French accent, French Canadian accent. And I said, well, damn, I can't wait that long. I thought to myself, I can't wait that long. So I called Ivan up. And Ivan said, yeah, we have a training school in Indian Trail, North Carolina. It's out on the east side of Charlotte. He said, come down on Saturday and we'll start your training. And I had been told, because I had shaved my head into a crew cut at the time without the goatee, that I resembled Nikita to a certain degree with that, and I didn't have the goatee at the time. Yeah. So I walked into, so I grew the goatee like in a week. And I walked into Ivan's camp, and when I walked in, everybody turned and they said, my God, you look like Nikita. Well, I did the tryout. It was nothing. Paid Ivan the money to train me. Bobby Fulton was his partner. Bobby was part of the Fantastics. Bobby came back about a week later from a deal in Japan, working for Baba, I believe. He and Tommy Rogers. And Bobby walked into the camp, and I was already in the ring with Ivan. And I don't know what we were doing. Show me how to take bumps or hit the rope. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And Bobby's like, oh my God. And see, Bobby had big time wrestling at the time. That was his little territory. Yeah. And Bobby was always Bobby was always 3 steps ahead, thinking about, his production and what have you. Well, he and Jackie, his brother, George, were the Fantastics because he and Tommy weren't doing anything domestically. They were only doing international. And so I think Bobby saw the chance to put me and Ivan together, or me with Uncle Ivan, against Bobby and Jackie, the Fantastics, in Bobby's territory, wherever we were going, or they were going. So Bobby said, "You're Carl Koloff." And I said, "That's a bunch of bullshit." I said, "Carl Koloff." I said, "Carl's a German name." And I said, "I spell mine with a C, not a K, to start with." And I said, "Let me come up with something." Well, Nikita was after Nikita Khrushchev, obviously. So I thought Vladimir Lenin, the guy who was before Khrushchev. So I said to Ivan, I said, "How about Vladimir Koloff?" That's it. A week later, Ivan and I are working, and I don't recall the promoter's name, but we're working in the old Greenville, South Carolina auditorium. 1 week later, I hadn't been trained 2 weeks. I barely knew how to lock up. And I still don't know how to lock up, some people say. But 2 weeks later, we're in Greenville, South Carolina at that old auditorium, which is the parking lot now where the Bilo Center is, the new building called the Bilo Center.
Yeah.
We're working rock and roll.
Okay.
Ricky and Robert. 2 great guys.
Yeah.
2 of the best guys I have ever been around. Humble. Hell, Rock and Roll Express, man. They drew, man.
Oh, yeah.
They drew some damn major money. Okay? Well, they're in the Hall of Fame.
You got that right.
Big time. So, we're working the rock and roll. And Robert comes to Ivan before we had the finish. And I'm like, "Finish? What the hell's a finish?" Robert comes to Ivan. Hoot comes to Ivan and says, "Hey, how green is that big overgrown nephew of yours?" And Ivan said, "He's only been trained 2 weeks." I was wearing a pair of Ivan's boots. Okay. My boots hadn't come in from who was the guy? Bill Ash in Arkansas. He made the boots. And I was wearing a singlet that Ivan gave me. My boots hadn't come in, so I put my they're 14s now. I put my size 12s at the time. I put my 12s in Ivan's size 10s. And get in the ring, and Ricky and Robert are just scared to death that I'm going to break him in half.
Oh, yeah.
So we're walking through the ring, and there's all these people. I'm like, damn. I mean, they're screaming. I mean, they're cussing us.
Yeah.
The Russians. And I heard somebody say, "Hey, you SOB," and I turned and looked, and about that time I got hit right in the face, and I don't know, I remember what it was. But somebody hit me right in the face, and I stopped, and for a split second, I was going to pull a Stan Lane in Beckley, West Virginia, when he went into the stands after somebody.
Oh, look out.
It was horrible. Crockett got sued and all that.
Oh, man.
So I was going to pull a Stan and go after this guy, but Ivan turned around and said, "Nephew, you must come to the ring and break rock and roll in half."
Yeah.
So we did the match. It was okay. I didn't kill the rock and roll, and they were fortunate. So that's how I got started.
Yeah.
If that's what the question was. I went off on such a tangent.
That's perfect.
Yeah,
got all the bases covered.
That's how I got in the business.
That's awesome.
So.
That's awesome. So, what happened after that? Oh, excuse me. We got a signal for a commercial break. I'm sorry. I'm getting too excited with this.
Yeah,
right?
you got to pay. You got to pay for this.
You got that right.
Sure.
Enjoy this commercial break. We'll be right back.
At Hero/Football, we offer a wide variety of items, including comics, Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering cards, plus a great selection of action figures. Every Wednesday, new comics arrive, so come on out to 217 9th Street in historic downtown of Wilkesboro today. Or give us a call at 336-818-1880. to start your comic subscription and save up to 15% off cover prices.
Welcome back. Listen, I got Vladimir Koloff, Carl Brantley with us. We've just been having this great interview here.
I'm glad you think it's great.
Hey, people at home are loving it. I know that much.
Well, I hope so.
Well, Carl, I was going to ask, after, the last story you left us, how did your career progress after that?
Well, after I was trained by Ivan and Bobby, I worked a lot of independents all over the United States and Canada.
Yeah.
A lot. Worked for Bobby because of the training camp a lot. Then just branched out. More promoters found out about me. Fortunately, I had Ivan as my tag team partner, and Ivan was still fresh off the road and fresh in a lot of television viewers' minds. So promoters all over the country would still use Ivan, and Ivan would say, "Hey, I've got this nephew who looks enough like Nikita and plays the Russian that I think it'd be well worth your time to bring him in as well, and tag us with one of your local tag, your talent in your territory." So it worked that way really, really well. We went up to Philadelphia and worked for ECW when it was Eastern Championship Wrestling. Loved that. I mean, the Philly crowd was just, they weren't nuts, but they were fanatics.
Yeah.
I mean, they were fanatics.
Felt real.
Yeah, man. They wanted to see some blood and guts.
Yeah.
So I actually had a title shot with
Okay.
ECW against Tito Santana.
Oh, nice.
And Merced put me. He didn't put me over. I did a job for him. Obviously, I mean, it's Tito Santana, but he was fresh out of WWF as the Matador.
Yeah.
And everybody knew him, Tito Santana. It's Tito Santana.
Tito.
It's like Jake the Snake. I mean,
Exactly.
come on. So, I did a job for him, but it still was an ECW ECW World Heavyweight match, and I really appreciated that. So they put us, and they worked Ivan and myself against the Headhunters.
Yeah.
Two Puerto Rican guys that were trained and worked for Victor Quinones out of Puerto Rico, and we worked the Headhunters, and all it was with the Headhunters was four-way juice. I mean, we just beat the living and juice everywhere. I mean, just blood everywhere. And so I think that kind of transitioned into what became Extreme. But you had Sandman there, you had Tommy Dreamer up there, and they were doing. I mean, it was crazy. And Sabu was in and out.
Yeah.
So I mean, those guys were the pinnacle of that organization, along with Shane Douglas, and so we kind of got relegated strictly into the tag team with the Headhunters, and we had the Juice Fest, as I like to call it. After that, I went to WCW. We were down at, Ivan and I went to Anderson, South Carolina. They were doing a TV taping down there. Dusty wanted to have a look at me. Met Dusty. After Dusty, Ole had the book in Atlanta. If I remember correctly, we went to Atlanta, and I met Ole up in Turner, and Ole, and I liked Ole because of his demeanor. I mean, he was always rough and tough and all that. We kind of shook hands, and I kind of pulled on him and tug of war across his desk, and little did I know that that's what he liked. Ivan told me later on. He said, "Oh, he loves that shit."
Oh, nice.
And so I was, and so Ole said, "Well, listen, we need to do one thing. We need you to go to the power plant." I said, "The power plant?" I was thinking, hell, I was an amateur wrestler. I was on the national team, And I said, "I'll do it twice." Well, I went to the power plant. And the power plant, to me, was nothing more than a process for them to weed out the guys that had no chance of whatsoever of ever becoming a wrestler. You do 500 squats in the first 30 minutes, guys would be puking, barfing, falling over, going out the door, never coming back. So they were weeding guys out. So I don't think they ever gave a lot of guys a lot of chance. They were just using it as a method of getting rid of the idiots, so to speak.
Oh, gotcha.
So worked for WCW, did house shows for them. Matter of fact, we were in Charlotte one time. Worked Van Hammer, the guitar guy, and it was kind of crazy. But I appreciated working for Turner.
Yeah.
Got money. I mean, the checks were there, so on and so forth. Then did a tryout with went to Cleveland, flew to Cleveland, did a tryout with Vince with the World Wrestling Federation. Another guy was on the card with me, doing a tryout at the same time. This guy was much thicker than I was, this way and this way, but a little bit shorter. And I don't remember his name, and I want to say he was called Bruiser Mastino, but I'm not positive. I can't remember his name. But he was the brother of the guy that wrestled for WCW called PN News.
PN News, okay.
Okay, this guy was his brother. He did tryout at the same time I did my tryout. I worked in Cleveland, or maybe it was Canton. I flew into Cleveland, I think it was at Canton, at the Municipal Auditorium there. And then we went on to Erie, and he did his deal. Well, Luna came to me afterwards and said, "Hey, congratulations on getting hired." And I said, "I don't know anything about it."
Yeah.
She said, "They're going to hire you. I mean, that's everybody's talking about it. They're going to hire you." Well, later I found out they wanted to change the gimmick.
Yeah.
You know, I went up there anticipating being Vladimir Koloff, continuing the Koloff name.
Gotcha.
Originally it was Dan Koloff, where Ivan got his gimmick from. Then it was Ivan Koloff, WWF World Champion.
Exactly.
Stopped Bruno's run, okay? Be it that it's a work. Nevertheless, they put that strap on Ivan because they sold out. He and Bruno sold out Madison Square Garden for like 52 weeks or something.
Wow.
Something crazy.
Yeah.
And then Nikita, I mean, Nikita was it during the 80s.
Yeah.
It, okay? So, you know, I fully anticipated carrying on the Koloff name. You know, the WWF had a rich heritage of Russians up there. You know, Ivan, Nikolai Volkov.
Yep.
I mean, look at the money that he and the Sheik made.
Exactly.
Hogan wouldn't be here without the Sheik doing what he did for him.
You got that right.
Boris Zukov, you know, and there was a few other ones that were in and out. So I found out that the gimmick that they wanted to put on me, they had found out, they being the WWF, had found out somehow that I raised the Texas Longhorn cattle.
Yeah.
And I'd had those prior to getting into wrestling, and that's how I actually met Andre.
Yeah.
Was through my Longhorn cattle. But they had found out that I raced the Longhorns, and the gimmick that they wanted to put on me that I rejected was the Manitar. And if you look the Manitar up, the guy that was PN News' brother who did the tryout the next day in Erie, when I was up there as well, they worked him as the Manitar, and it was voted by the fans the worst gimmick ever in WWF history.
I remember that thing.
Whether it was the gimmick or whether it was, and I don't remember the guy's name, and I'm being serious because I normally remember a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was horrific, and they changed. He had a buffalo head on.
It didn't work.
It was horrible. Scott Hall told me one time. I saw Scott in Orlando. He goes, "My God," he said, "that was just horrible." Evidently, Scott worked him in one of his matches in the very beginning. He said it was horrible.
Yeah.
The gimmick was. So I'm glad I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I'm really glad about that. So with all that being said, I worked a lot of independents everywhere, all over the world. South Africa, Australia, Europe, Japan. I loved going to Japan.
Oh, yeah.
One of the greatest honors I ever had was being Andre's friend.
Yeah.
It wasn't a mark for Andre. I never asked him for an autograph, never asked him for a photograph. I was a friend of Andre's, and the friendship stemmed from back in 86. I want to say 86 or 87, but I think it was 86. My family got a phone call. We had Longhorns at the time.
Yeah.
Got a phone call from a lady by the name of Jackie Bernard. And she said her and her husband, Frenchie Bernard, wanted to come up to Wilkesboro and see our cattle.
Yeah.
And they were going to bring a friend of theirs. And they wanted to buy some cattle. I said, sure. So we arranged a time and so on and so forth. And for whatever reason, I was home from working overseas with the company that I told you I worked with when I got out of college. I hadn't gotten into the wrestling business. I hadn't even thought about it. And I was home from overseas working. And the night before, I had gone out with one of my best friends in the entire world, who is deceased now. He and I went right down 2 blocks, 1 block down from here, Dundee's Bar.
Yeah.
It's on the backside of Dixie Billiards, which is right across the street. And Dixie's isn't there anymore. I think it's a gun shop.
Gotcha.
My buddy, he's gone now. He's my best friend, James Green. He and I had gone out, drinking, raising hell, partying. So I knew these people were coming the next day.
Yeah.
And my brother, it's about 8 o'clock in the morning, and my younger brother comes and gets me and says, man, you got to come see this. I said, you go show them the cows. I said, my head's killing me. He said, no, man, you guys come see this. I said, listen, I don't have time. I'm sleeping. I don't feel it. He said, listen, you got to come see these people. So I get up, put my clothes on, walk out of the house, through the garage to the driveway of my mom and dad's house. My mom's house now. I'm thinking, well, this is nothing special. There's just a big van, one of these conversion vans sitting there. And all of a sudden, the barn doors on the side open up. The double doors on the side open up. And I see the truck kind of move, the van move a little bit. And this guy gets out. Hell, his head's above the van, above the door.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, this guy must be standing on the running board or something.
Yeah.
I kind of walk around there and I look. And before I could process, I knew who it was. Before I could actually process it, he had stuck his hand out. And those of you that don't know Andre or knew Andre or ever saw Andre in person, Andre's hand was like a baseball glove. His hand was huge. My ring that I wore was a 22. I could put a quarter through my ring, no problem. Andre's rings, you could put a Kennedy $50 through it. That's how big it was just huge.
I remember just seeing when he would hold so.
Well, yeah, there's a real famous photograph. I think it was in Sports Illustrated. He was holding a Canadian Molson Canadian beer.
Yeah.
12-ounce can. It's real famous. It's all over the place. Seen all over the place. And so it was Andre the Giant. And I'm thinking, holy smokes. And then this other guy comes around. He's a little bitty guy. He's scraggly hair, kind of a goatee, scraggly beard, leathery tan face, leather cowboy hat on, pant legs stuffed in a boot, a sidearm in his boot, a pistol. Had a holster on, had a Colt in the holster.
Yeah.
He's driving the van with this. His name's Frenchie Bernard.
Oh, my.
All right, Frenchie before that, Frenchie was Andre's confidant, ranch manager, best friend in the entire world, former NWA, Florida referee, pretty much a legend.
Yeah.
It was Frenchie, his wife Jackie, and Andre. Well, they wanted to buy Longhorns. Andre loved Longhorns, so they bought some cattle from us. My brother and I delivered them a week later, or what have you. I became dear friends with Andre.
Yeah.
Through the livestock. They knew about my amateur career because I showed them all my state, national, and international freestyle, Greco-Roman, high school wrestling medals, championships, yada, yada, yada. Showed them all that. And Andre always said, well, if you want to get into the business, I'll get you into the business.
Okay.
So I tried to call Andre back when I wanted to get in the business, and he was in Japan, so I had to revert back to calling Ivan, who I met on the airplane. Ivan ended up training me because Andre was overseas and wouldn't be back for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's why Andre never trained me. But everybody knew that Andre and I were tight.
Yeah.
I mean, real tight. So, with that being said, I worked for the IWA. I was IWA World Champion, which was a smaller organization. It became a small organization from being a large organization in the 70s. They ran Shea Stadium where the Mets played baseball. They ran that stadium in New York back in the 70s. Pedro Morales was one of their champions. It later became a smaller organization, numerous financial deals, what have you. It worked its way down, and it was purchased by a guy out of Florida. Well, the head referee for the IWA was a guy by the name of Sal Corrente, who I told you earlier called me a crowbar.
Yeah.
Okay. Sal was good friends with Nikita. He was also good friends with Afa Anawai, the Wild Samoan, who's The Rock's uncle. Well, Sal, evidently the promoter who owned the IWA, had this deal in preparation to go to China. It had been the first pro wrestling shows in China ever. And this was right about the same time, or maybe before the time that Baba and Flair, if I remember it correctly, Flair and Baba and the Japan outfit went to North Korea. I think. And it was right around that time. Well, it was what was going on was Michael Jackson was having, I don't know if it was the Thriller tour, the Billie Jean tour, the Beat It tour. I don't remember which tour it was, but he was in China, and he was doing 20 or so cities, and we were to come in on this tour after each of those cities. The wrestling was going to be the next gig the next night in all these stadiums. Evidently China has like 50 cities that has over 20 million people. And we were going to do 20 shows in 22 days or 25 days or what have you. That's what the plan was. Well, the promoter out of Florida tried to call Andre, and Andre wouldn't have anything to do with him. Andre said, "I'm not interested." Hung up. I mean, hell, if Andre didn't want to do it, he wasn't going to do it. It wasn't like he was hurting for money and needed the money. So the guy that was the head referee for the IWA was Sal Corrente. Sal was one of my buddies at the time. And Sal called me and said, hey, Sal knew my relationship with Andre. That I called him anytime, whatever. And he said, hey, can you call the Giant? I said, listen, you call him. I said, I don't want to jeopardize my friendship for some jackleg goof, whatever's going on. I said, so Sal's like, please, just, and I said, all right, I'll call him. I said, I can't promise you anything. So they called. Andre said, yeah, I know who you are. Okay, whatever. The promoter out of Florida said, this is what we've got going. We've got these shows going to China in conjunction with the Michael Jackson deal. We'll be gone this many days, this many shows. We want you to work so-and-so, 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 and so-and-so, this night, whatever. Andre said, no, I'm not going to do it. He said, we haven't talked money. And Andre said, it's not that. He said, listen, if we go, I'm going to work with Vladimir every night, and I'm going to beat him every night. And in Beijing, Peking, whatever you want to call it, in their big soccer stadium, which they tore down for the most recent Olympics and built that new one. This thing held 80 or 90,000 people, I think. He said, in Beijing, in the last match, Carl's going to pin me. He was going to let me slam him. And they asked me, they said, you think you can pick Andre up? I said, sure, I can pick Andre. I said, if Hogan can pick him up, I sure as hell can pick him up. Being that Terry's taller than I am, but, I could press a lot of weight at one time. So that's how close friends Andre and I were. I was gonna do a job for him every night in all those cities, building up to the last show in Beijing in front of all those people. He was gonna let me slam him and pin him 1, 2, 3. 4 days before, everything was ready. We had, I mean, our visas were through the consulate or the embassy in DC. We were ready to go. 4 days before we were to go, we got a phone call. Andre died.
Oh, man.
He was still in France. He had been over there for his father's funeral. If you saw the documentary, I think it was on A&E or whatever.
Yeah.
The story about that, he was over there for his dad's funeral, wasn't feeling well. Tim White talks about it, wasn't feeling well, went to the hotel, said, I'm going to turn in. They went, the maid or housekeeper, whoever went, he had passed.
Yeah.
It never happened. The show never happened. I kind of feel like, and some people may say I'm wrong, but I kind of feel like that would have been my break.
Yeah.
Because to my knowledge, to Wild Wes's knowledge,
Get that.
and to Jody's knowledge, I only know of one other guy that pinned Andre.
Yeah.
And that's the Hulkamaniac.
Yeah.
You know, so it never happened.
Yeah.
And so I don't have any regrets about the career
Yeah.
because I wrestled all over. All over.
Yeah.
But it never happened. I mean, I kind of feel like that would have been my success.
Gotcha.
And that would have led to a lot of different things.
Other opportunities.
Yeah, a lot of other opportunities. So, you know, but I still want to trade Andre's friendship that I had
That's the main
with
thing.
him. And I'm telling you, I was tight with Andre.
That's awesome.
Everybody knew that.
Yeah.
Everybody knew the Giant and I were tight. Matter of fact, right here in North Wilkesboro at the drag strip where they run funny cars and
Yeah.
rail cars,
Yeah.
you know, 5 miles up the road, up in the Champion community of Wilkes County.
Yeah.
We had a wrestling show up there. A promoter came in, and Honky Tonk, Anvil, Valentine, Kerry Von Erich. I wrestled Kerry. I worked Kerry up there. I was the last guy to wrestle Kerry. Andre was there. Neidhart was there. Rock and Roll was there. Fantastics were there. I want to say Orndorff was there. But it was a hell of a show up there.
Yeah, the star-studded show.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I mean, big talent. You know, and again, the talent from the talent from the late '70s up until the early '90s.
Yeah.
That was talent.
Yeah.
I mean, Tully, Arn, Ole, Flair, Ricky Steamboat, Jake Roberts. Man, I mean, you know, I could go on and on and
Cream
on
of
and
the
on.
crop.
Yeah, man. I mean, when I got in and later, it was, you know, a lot of those huge names were still there, and it was great to be with them, great to see them,
Yeah.
great to work them. You know, one of my best friends back then was Stan Lane from the Midnight Express.
Yeah.
You know, I think Cornette called him the gangster of love.
Look out.
And brother, I'm telling you, let me tell you, he could work the program.
Oh, I hear you. Well, with that, listen, that's some great stories. We got to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we got more Vladimir Koloff.
At Hero Slash Collectible, we offer a wide variety of items, including comics, Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering cards, plus a great selection of action figures. Every Wednesday, new comics arrive, so come on out to 217 9th Street in historic downtown North Wilkesboro today. Or give us a call at 336-818-1880 to start your comic subscription and save up to 15% off cover prices.
And again, welcome back to Vladimir Koloff, Carl Brantley. Although you get ready to show off them guns.
There's no guns here anymore.
Getting everybody tore up at home.
Ivan used to call them, well, you know, I'm covered in hair, right? And Ivan used to call them ham hocks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so he said, don't lay those ham hocks on me.
Oh, look out.
You know.
Listen, Carl, we went over our allotted time, but listen, if you don't mind, we're going to have another episode a little bit airing on. This will be part 1, and we'll have another part 2. Is that all right?
Sure.
All right.
Absolutely.
I want to thank everybody watching this episode. Please like and subscribe and listen. We're going to have part 2 coming up shortly. So just enjoy yourselves, and thank you for watching.